Well, I can remember more than anything of going on the evacuation. And we all had to meet at the school. I was 7, my brother was 6, and my sister was 8. And we walked to the top. This is down in Great Ormond Street, so we had to walk to the top of the street, which was Scotland Road, and get on a bus. And we still didn't ask where we were going, and your mother didn't know where you were going. Nobody was told where you were going. And we all said to her, oh, and remember one lad saying to me, your mother's crying. I said, she isn't, you know. And the next thing, we were all getting onto a train. Now, the train in those days didn't have corridors, so once you were in a compartment, you had to stay there for the whole of the journey. And you would, beforehand, your mother was told to bring a little bag with her, with some underclothes and something like that, you know. And I remember the woman next door giving me a big orange, she gave me, and a tin of zoobs, which were sucky sweets. And we didn't think anything of it. We just went, thought we were going on a journey somewhere.
They weren't really sucky sweets, were they?
No, they were cough sweets.
Cough sweets,
they were cough sweets,
yeah.
called zoobs. And the next thing, we were in the station. We didn't know where we were. We were quite a while, because we had to go from Lime Street to Pwllheli, and quite a while. And then we all got on the bus. And then we were taken 12 miles again into another village. We all got off the bus and went into this big church hall and village hall, and people were, they gave us food then, cakes and things like this. And then this man got up who lately I found it was the man I was going to live with. He was the billeting officer, and he shouted people's names out, and they come out and said, I'll have her and I'll have her, yeah. And someone took, well, he took me, so I was more or less last to go. And then they put my brother, when they were on the train, they put an orange band on my brother's arm. We never asked what he got. And when we got to the village, they took him and put him back on the bus. 6 he was. And we were saying, oh, Betty and I were saying, where's my brother? Where's my brother? My mum said we hadn't got to be split up. And they said, he's all right, he's all right. And anyway, we got taken off, and he never come with us. We didn't know where he was. And only that this man I was living with said he'd gone back to Pwllheli to the hostel. We couldn't find a place for him. Well, we cried. And a week after, the woman that our Betty was with had a stroke, and she come to live with us, with me. And when we cried every night, my mum said we had got to be split up. And anyway, we cried that much. He brought us to the village, but he took him half a mile further on than us, by himself on a farm. 6 he was, and he had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get the cows out with the son of the village, of the farm. Oh, it was terrible. But that only went on. That went on till about, that was December, January, because I can always remember the Red Cross give us pixie hoods and coats and boots. Oh no, the woman bought us boots. The woman never wore boots before, boys' boots. So we got a pair of boots each, and the Red Cross give us gym slips and jumpers and pixie hoods. I've got a photograph of the pixie hoods. And we enjoyed the first winter that we were there. And I often say to myself, I feel awful because I never bothered to see how far our Johnny was, you know. It's just that he wasn't there, but he used to come to school, and he had to walk half a mile down to the village to go to school. Once or twice they took him on the tractor, but other times he had to walk. So it was a bit sad. But my mother come over at the May Blitz in 1941, and when she saw the way he was, she took him back with her. They stayed 6 months till they quietened down, and then she took him over with her. Yeah, he wasn't very happy.
I went to over the water, didn't I?
To Mills? Or?
No, I went over the water, and we watched, we were looking back at the Liverpool being bombed and that, and the person who we were with, who was a friend of ours, she had a pub in, or her husband had the pub in Great Ormond Street, and she said, oh, let's go back home, we might as well die together as be out here. So they went, and my dad was an air raid warden at the time, and he built a shelter for us underneath the pub what they had, and we what was it?
Went down there of a night.
Went down there of a night, and we slept, and to us it was really exciting, you know, big young kids like, you know. And anyway, when it was all over, I don't remember the singing and the dancing in the street or anything like that, but it was certainly a peaceful experience to not hear planes going across the sky and dropping bombs, you know, and things like that. It was really good. And it was really good to look up and see English planes flying.
Like the time we did.
Absolutely marvellous it was.
Before we got evacuated, we were playing at the bottom of the street, and it was a Wednesday, and all the shops shut on a Wednesday, so there was no traffic on the road. And this plane come over, and someone shouted, "Oh, there's a Red Cross plane!" And we all said, "Oh, no!" And the next minute it dropped its bombs. So we all scattered. And I think I was the only one that didn't run home. I ran in the first house at the bottom of our street because they had a cellar. And all the cellars that were shelters, made into shelters. So I ran in there, and there was the people out the house was there, and the people next door were there. And then when it got to this is about 5 o'clock, and when it got to 8 o'clock, this man said to me, "You can go now, I think they've stopped." So I come out the shelter, I had to climb the steps out the shelter. And you know, I can still remember, I ran up the street, because we lived halfway up, bent down, and I was saying to myself, "He'll machine gun me if he sees me, he'll machine gun me." So I ran, and I ran up all 5 steps, bang, 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 on the door, and my dad come out and he went, "Get in!" And he threw me down the hall, what we call the lobby.
"Where have you been?"
"Where have you been?" he said. So I got told off, and I'm coming straight home.
Right. That sounds so scary.
It was. But of a morning when you went to school, which there were schools in different people's houses, the schools closed, you used to look for shrapnel off the bombs.
Oh yeah,
that fell on the bombed houses.
I used to collect shrapnel, and it was remnants of bombs or things like that, and I had quite a bit of it, and in the end, like my mother said to me, "You want to throw that away." So much to my disgust, and my disgust now for throwing that shrapnel away, because I could have showed it to my kids and said, this was off the bombs in the war.
Yeah. But you could go around the next day and see people who had been, not people, but people's houses that had been bombed out. There was no windows in. And I remember going up one street and you could see the wardrobe and everything inside the bedroom, but nobody was in there because of God. Yeah. It was frightening in some things, wasn't it?
It was.
When the siren went and you had to go down into the cellar. Yeah, we got through it. Didn't we? We got through it, yeah. And I think I was saying before, then the rationing come, you know, well, it come just right after the war. And I can remember standing in the queue. It was when I come home from the evacuation. I went when I was 7, and I was just going on 11 when I come home. And I only saw my dad once in all that time, because he never went in the army. He had a cirrhosis of the liver, and they wouldn't take him.
He worked
in Bibbies on the front. So he was in the Home Guard, and he used to go up on a night on the roof, watching for the bombs. You know, any bombs dropped in there. And I remember I asked my mother, said, with 5 of us, and my mother said, "Go and see if you can get us any potatoes." So I was standing in the queue for potatoes, and then and I went out. I remember getting on the tram and going down into town where the old St John's Market was, and standing in the queue for these potatoes. And they used to say to you, "How old are you?" I think I was only 13, I said 14, but they wouldn't give it to you unless you were 14. And then another time I went to Blundell's on Great Ormond Street.
Oh, yeah.
There was a queue for sugar. So I stood in the queue for sugar and I got a £2 bag of sugar. Yeah, that was the only way you could do it,
Yeah,
is go and stand in the
of
queue
course.
for it. And another time, well, I'm going on. Another time we had no coal, and the snow was on the ground, and so my mother, young Betty, that was my sister, she was just 14 months older than me, and she said, "You and Betty go the coal, matey, because you don't had your own coal, matey," and see if he's got any coal. So we had to take the baby's pram with us and push it through the snow to the coal thing, and he put a bag of coal on the pram, and the two of us had to push it back again.
Well, it wasn't coal, it was coke. It was coke, which was burnt coal, because they used to use the coke for gas. Yeah.
Wow.
And what else? That was. I think that might have been it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to put us on for. I used to put you used to burn your shoes and everything. When your shoes got holes in, you never threw them away. You went on the fire, because that was the only
No,
fuel.
there's many a time I've had shoes on and I could feel
The coke.
I could feel the sets.
Oh,
The sets with the floor, and I could feel that through them. Honestly, it
Through your
was.
shoes.
It was.
Yeah. You couldn't
It was,
throw them away until
was
you got a hole.
horrendous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Never mind, we've survived, haven't we?
When I hear you talk about your experiences during the war, I'm reminded of how resilient your generation is, and
Yeah.
of everything that you've been through, and you're here living through a pandemic.
I
Yeah.
think that's why we're living longer, because there's more people get to their 80s now.
Yeah.
My mother was 75, your
Yeah.
mum was 75, but people died younger, before us again. Yeah, they were too,
Yeah.
didn't they? Yeah, we were used to going for it and doing it, weren't we? Yeah, getting
Yeah.
in a queue and yeah.
I remember the lolly ices, scorers, the lolly ice people.
Yeah.
They started the first. They weren't real lolly ices. They were just on a stick, and you just sucked them until they lost the colour, and then you just threw that
A bit
on
of
the
ice
floor,
away.
threw it down the griddle or on the floor. It was so funny, wasn't it?
I can remember when the war first started and Italy come into it, and the Italian ice cream shops,
Oh,
and any
yeah.
Italians,
They got battered, didn't
Everybody not made it. Everyone stoned the shops with stones and everything. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a bit unfair that,
yeah,
wasn't
it
it?
was all. I think it was
Because,
vengeance, really,
it
wasn't
was
it?
vengeance.
Yeah.
Get back at the
At the
Itais.
Itais, and
Yeah.
it looks like they were born in Liverpool, but they had an Italian name
Yeah,
over the
that's
door,
right.
so they got
Yes.
us as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Fusco's ice cream.
And the ice
as well.
cream, yeah.
That was.
All
that
these were
was-
novelties
and also
afterwards, you
when
know.
when they first brought bonfires out, and they had bangers, which were really strong and loud, and we used to throw them at the girls. It was to us it was really funny.
Tell James about you getting blown across the road.
Oh yeah, there
with
was
the landmine.
there was a ship. I don't know if it was a landmine or a ship. I think it might have been a ship. Blew up in the docks, and I felt the force of it in the house, Mrs. Shaw's house. It was.
In the pub on the corner.
It just moved me back a couple of paces backwards. The force was tremendous. I couldn't figure that out quite.
Yeah,
What it
yeah,
was really.
Yeah.
Now what else was there?
There's lots of you could think back. I've wrote the thing from when I went on the evacuation right up to coming home. I've done 2 lots, one for Isabella and one for Olivia, to what we did. I mean, you won't say you went through, but being that age and you miss your mum and dad, and you know, it's as if you could get the bus and go home. You couldn't. No, we cried. Well, you don't know, but me and my sister cried many a night to go home. But no matter how much you cried, you couldn't go. You know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I felt sorry. Afterwards, I thought, and our Johnny would never speak about it. He never spoke about it. And I one time asked him about going to school, and he said, I'd walk right down to the top of the hill where I could see the bus, he said, and I'd wait till the bus had gone, and then I'd go back and say I missed the bus. Yeah. But you didn't know the children you were with. They were all from different schools.
Yeah.
In fact, I think my sister and I and Johnny were all from the same neighbourhood, and others were from different neighbours. So I was always going to say, well, I've got my mate to play with, because you have to learn to be friends again with them, you know. Yeah. And I remember the only time I saw my dad, he come to see us, and he was a drinker, and we met him in the village, and there was a pub on the hill, and we went into the pub, and in those days children, it's been to see our mum, children weren't allowed in the pub at the time. So anyway, he asked could we come in, and he said, well, as long as you stay in the garden. So we went and played in the garden where my mum and dad had a drink, and we pinched the apples off the tree. We pinched the apples off the tree, and he told us off the man.
Yeah.
Those Liverpool kids. Pinched the apples. We'd never seen apples before on trees. They were always in shops, you know. Yeah.
But it was amazing about Scores, because they were the very, very first people to manufacture lolly oysters. You just sucked them.
Yeah.
And it was just a piece of ice with some sort of form of colouring in them used, and we used to just chuck us away down a grit, things like that.
But the shops in those, well, just after the war, you had to queue up. You had to queue up with the shops. You know, you couldn't just walk in and get something. And then some shops would only give you so many, you know, like you see that open all hours, you know. Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's anything else that could...
I say we come forward, didn't we? But nobody, they had shelters in each street, and maybe 2 or 3 brick shelters, like, and quite a few got killed in them, you know, in them. But we never used ours. We used to play hide and seek and run around the house, didn't we?
There was one right outside our house, a shelter.
Was there? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a lamp, which we used to throw a rope over the top of it and swing round the lamp. Swing round the lamp. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to us, like, but
we used to play a lot in the street, didn't we? With the lads as well.
Yeah.
Catch a girl, kiss a girl.
Yeah.
Ensure you didn't get caught. And there used to be all cobbles in the street, you know, and you could chalk along there. That was the line in the street for kick a can. You had to, one side had to kick the can onto the other line. You made your own, because the shops didn't have toys in then. You just made your own entertainment, didn't you, really?
And you know, I think I might have, this might be a repeat. When they first brought the fireworks out, we used to put the fireworks, light the firework, put it in a can, and see how high it should blow up in the sky.
You're more dangerous then, weren't you? They thought the bombs have come down, this will go up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And then we met each other in George Ewan's, didn't we?
A boys' brigade dance. I worked in Tillerson's cardboard box factory. I finished school on the Friday, 14, and they give you a card in school for your character, which you should show, and another card. And I was going out on the Monday morning with 2 other girls. I was going to the British American Tobacco Company because my sister worked there, like, and my mother said, don't come back without a job. There's 5 of us here. So I couldn't get into the British American, they were full. So I went on to the next corner, and it was the cardboard box factory, and I was there for 13 years. But she said, don't come back without a job.
And I worked in a place putting lines on paper.
What about the first one they give you, the first job? He tells you this.
Oh well, that was when we were looking for work.
Yeah.
And the fella said.
But you left
I-
school at 16, did
Yeah.
you? I left school at 14.
And my mate and I went down, and he said, "I've got a good job for you. It's an ideal job." And we said, "Okay, what is this?" And he said, "Making coffins." I said, well, you can stick it. And when both of us went over to New Brighton and spent the day in New Brighton.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your memories.
We could go on forever while you
we could,
remember.
yeah,
Thanks
we
very
could
much.
Yeah.
Anyone watching that in church is like, stupid lass.
It's so good for us to hear your memories, though,
Yeah.
because
And the things that stick, aren't they, you know?
Yeah.
Even though you're repeating them all the time, I can visually see myself there. In fact, I've got photographs as well, because they took photographs. But visually see myself walking down the hill to get to school and all like that.
Yeah.
And she used to give us, you know the brandy bottles you can get now where the top goes over, like you might know. You used to get bottles of brandy like that, and the top used to go like that. Well, there was little ones as well, about that big, and she used to give us the milk in there, and they're only about that big. The milk in there for our lunch, yeah, and our lunch box. Oh, yeah. They had no children, you see, and she was a bit. In fact, you know what I was thinking about the other day when you said about it? Do you know Mary Poppins?
not personally, but
No. She just looked like her hats as well. Yeah, Mary Poppins.
Wow.
Yeah, and they used to have lamps. They had no electric. You just had to light a lamp overnight. And our Betty always throws this up to me. She used to always. We had to do jobs as well in the house, and she used to always break a cup or something every day. So they put it in the well, we'd call it a shed now, a little shed in the garden. To peel the potatoes on a Saturday. So I got the job of washing the dishes, and she used to sit in there peeling the potatoes, and you could hear her singing at the top of her voice. She said there was rats in there. She could hear them moving round, she said.
I think they were mice myself.
Yeah, but she said there wouldn't be
She thought
rats.
they were
No,
rats,
there'd be mice
yeah.
out the fields as well,
Yeah,
wouldn't they? But
yeah.
she used to always say, I have to sit and roll and peel the potatoes while you were in the warmth. Because she used to always break the cups. But they took us in. I don't think she would have took us in if it wasn't had
Yeah.
been the bill as an officer. But he was good, Mr. Roberts, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He
Yeah,
got me,
was.
when the May Blitz come on, and everybody moved out, because it was like London. And my mum just phoned him up and said we're in Pwllheli. They'd come out whether they got anywhere or not, because people were just moving out. And we heard, in fact, we were in bed and we heard him saying, yes, Mrs. Backney, yes, I'll come for you tomorrow. Go to the hostel. So they went to the hostel for the night, and he went out and got them.
Yeah.
And he took them a bit further Johnny again, but it was in the farmhouse with an old lady, and Mrs. Jones, and they stayed there for 6 months. My mum and my grandma stayed there till all the bombing had stopped, you know. But something I would like to go through again, isn't it?
No.
No.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
memories. We really appreciate that.
It's only got about 10 minutes for all that. You'll have to make a film of it, you know.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of
No,
something
if you do,
else.
you can write it down and tell him.